Hello, hope you are having a beautiful, beautiful day. Um, I was going to make a recording in correlation to my last recording, which is passive aggressiveness. I feel like we need to fully understand something so that we can utilize and acquire the necessary tools that we need in order to navigate through a certain situation, in order to create an experience. So there's so many things tied into this topic. I don't know where to start really, so let's just say whatever comes to mind, I suppose. I did take notes, and as I was jotting down notes, like this is my notes right here. And yes, I am in a parking lot, my favorite place to be. Yeah, it took a bunch of notes, and it's all over the place, and I'm like, that's probably how my mind is. It just grasps information from all these different angles and reference points, and then pieces it together to create an idea that has some kind of, like, that makes sense or has some type of concrete foundation. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyhow, yeah, let's get into this. Let's get into like passive aggressiveness, why we have been doing it for so long, why we don't have to do it anymore. We've been doing it all this time, again, because we don't know how to do it any other way, right? Nobody has taught us. We've basically been regurgitating ancestral programming, and I think our mom and dad, our grandparents and so forth have taught us the best that they knew how. And, it's up to us to implement it. And if they haven't taught us, it's probably because they just didn't know either. They just, these weren't like topics or subjects that they took time to explore and elaborate upon. You know what I mean? So I feel like the greatest teacher that you have, aside from life, is yourself. I mean, how willing are you, and how open are you to discover new aspects of yourself? You know what I mean? Yeah, because a lot of times it's like, sometimes people can tell you something and you may not be receptive in that particular moment in life, and it isn't applicable for you in that particular moment of life, and you have to move through a series of events to finally get to a point where you recognize that something is not working, and then you have to discover it within yourself. And in my other videos I said everybody is you. So basically you are observing and experiencing yourself through different people, different things, different experiences. So you have to be open to discovering, all these reference points that are laid out clearly before you, And before I get into this subject, I'm really sorry. I feel like this recording is going to be super long because I just have a lot of information I want to outlet. So if you look at your mind is a map. And there's different avenues and passages and, how do I say? There's different aspects of your mind that you can access in order to fully experience and understand something. That's why I say nothing is wrong or right, good or bad. I do believe, though, since we are living in a dualistic plane of existence, that everything can be negatively charged or positively charged, and it just depends on what you want to create, what you want to experience, what you want to understand, and then you just kind of explore that region of your mind thoroughly and gain a higher understanding or awareness of that particular part of your brain and proceed. So I don't know if I'm making sense. I should have drew this in advance, but let me grab my pen really quick It's gonna be really bad. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna focus here. Sorry if you cannot see well. Can you see that? Okay, so this is poor trying. Say that's your mind. Okay, and the mind has all these reference points. Kind of looks like stars, huh? Like constellations. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, man. I'm not a brain engineer. Okay, whatever. So that's your mind. It has all these reference points, right? And they all have these avenues. I should change the tip. They have all these like avenues and reference points. Do you understand? Do you get it? And each reference point basically is something, has some type of energetic charge. You know what I mean? Because everything is energy. So everything has like an energetic charge, and it just is dependent on you. Like, do you want to experience, say this reference point is sadness. Do you want to experience energy and motion in the form of what is perceived as sadness or happiness or peace or conflict? This is a really, really shitty map. Sorry. I don't know. That's the best I can do in this moment. I think you're following me, and if not, I'm sorry. But, okay, so so your brain is a map or a blueprint, right? It has all these reference points, and in any moment, you can tune into a particular reference point to experience that to a higher or lower degree, okay? So, like, and I feel like that's probably peace and conflict, whatever, and you can understand it on a surface level, or you can like dive deep into it in order to like grasp like the wholeness of it. You know what I mean? It just depends on what you want to experience, and nobody's holding a knife to your back or a gun to your head and telling you need to experience that. So in any moment, you get to choose like what part of your mind do you want to access? What reference point do you want to apply to what's happening? And I feel like wherever your attention goes, it tunes into a particular access point or reference point in your mind, and energetically, energy and motion, energetically you can utilize that access point to project an experience into your reality. Does that make sense? So like for instance, to some extent, that's why I think it's so important to study the mind and to also reprogram it as needed based on what you want to create. We're all creators. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not, we are all creators, and we can create whatever we want, depending on what we choose to do in each moment, depending on what reference point we want to access in the mind, depending on the emotional charge that we apply behind, the reference point that you're currently residing in, if that even makes sense. So we get to choose. And I'm totally off subject because I was going to talk on how to resolve conflict, but this is kind of in correlation with that, yeah? Because you need to understand that so that you can understand the mind and the reference points, your choices, the emotions behind what you choose or what you allow to utilize in the moment. You know what I mean? Brain is a finely tuned instrument, and you are the composer, and you need to learn how to use it to create beauty or chaos. You know what I mean? Fragmentation or wholeness. You choose in every moment. It's very important. A lot of the times, I've said this before, we allow other people to set the tone and the rhythm and the beats of our experiences. That's cool if you're both in a state of mind where you know what you're doing, but when you don't know what's happening and you're allowing life to kind of drag you into someone else's chaos. It's not cool. You know, that's when healthy boundaries come into play, and that's when yeah. So much on my mind. And when I was like drawing stuff out, or like mapping things out and like writing things down, I was just like, oh my God, my mind is it's not chaotic. It's just there's so many reference points that I am accessing in a given moment, and then having to piece it together in a way that makes sense. It's a lot. Welcome to my mind. Welcome. I'm sure your mind operates the same way. And that's why I think a lot of people can't follow me, because I just have too much going on too quickly. And they just, you know, when I try to plug into someone, they either overload or just glaze out, because they just can't handle the amount of information I'm accessing. And yeah, got used to that. It's cool. Anyways, going back to like handling conflict effectively. So I'm going to try and read off my notes, because I don't really want to think too hard on it. But we basically have to reprogram the mind. Like, a lot of us have been stuck on the same program for most of our life. And if it's benefiting you and it's benefiting others, by all means, keep on keeping on if that's the objective you want to reach. But if it's not working, you got to kind of step back and just kind of like look at things and be like, what am I doing? And how can I reprogram my mind, refine my instrument in a way that will create a reality that is harmonious and beneficial to one and all. Now, in my last video, I talked about how we are passive aggressive. That is a form of, I want to say, negative conflict, subtle warfare. Think about it. Like, it's subtle warfare. Passive aggressiveness, it's not in your face warfare. It's a subtle technique, and it does nothing. It's disservice to yourself and to others. It prevents you from becoming your highest self, because you're not being authentic and you're not being sincere about the emotions that are inside of you, and you're not allowing people opportunities to understand. You know what I mean? It's like you understand, but then you're not allowing them to understand you, causing conflict. So passive aggressiveness is subtle warfare, bottom line. And you know, we're all about peace, and we don't like conflict and we don't like confrontation, but passive aggressiveness is a subtle form of conflict, whether you want to recognize that or not. And we can make all the excuses. You know, excuses hold us back, and you know, I think we make excuses because we're afraid of confronting things within ourselves, confronting things outside of ourselves. And so we use passive aggressiveness as a kind of like subtle defense mechanism, but it does more damage. Really, it really does. Think about it. The physical is like, you know, it can heal quite quickly, but it's the emotional, mental, the deeper aspects of your psyche that can do the most damage to yourself and to others. So if you want to get past that, you just need to like stop making excuses, and recognize what you've been doing all this time, what I've been doing all this time. Yeah, and it's the scariest thing to admit and confront within yourself, but you can't make any headway if you don't. So here, I'm just gonna read off this thing, and then hopefully you can get all the pieces and then piece them together in a way that you can understand. Anyhow, so being understood and accepted are universal human needs. Critical thinking does not have to be negative. It can be constructive and positive. It's only when we have the courage to speak up respectfully that we can help each other learn. Conflict is natural. Passive aggressiveness is not. You know, it's deconstructive conflict. You know, so you have constructive criticism, and then you have deconstructive criticism, which is basically information that's withheld from the opposing party. Nobody gets anywhere, and then you create a lot of chaos, disconnection, and destruction. Um, so what we have to understand is we are allowed to feel what we feel. What we do with that, how we deal with our emotions, can be utilized to create healthy connections or destroy any possibility of one. You have a right to feel emotions. Trying not to feel, for example, anger or sadness does not make it go away. If anything, it makes it more powerful. So self-awareness, understanding your mind, understanding your operation, your programs, the patterns, your behaviors, your motivations, your triggers are very important things. And I feel like you can't understand yourself to a higher level or degree if you're constantly immersed in distractions. And I think that's why, on a good note, it's good that we isolate, because it gives us a lot of time to just self-reflect. You know what I mean? So anger suppressed and expressed indirectly is ineffective and confusing. Someone can only meet our needs when they understand them. Choose to be, or you can choose to be combative or collaborative. The choice is yours. So you can be combative and do this, subtle warfare through passive aggressiveness. Oh my God, I can't speak. Or you can be collaborative and just garner and muster the courage to speak. You know what I mean? And tell people how you feel and give them the opportunity to learn, But if you don't speak up, and you don't acknowledge your feelings and you suppress them, it just stews inside of you and creates a poison. And you can't blame anyone but yourself. You create the poison within yourself. You can say oh, I had a traumatic childhood. We all did. But you can either rise above that or you can get stuck in that. The choice is always yours. You always have a choice. So empower yourself. Let's see. Ignoring feelings are never the solution. Accept them, investigate, and act. We need to learn how to communicate directly and honestly with the intent to understand and be understood. Muster up courage to be clear and respectful. Don't let fear of what people might think stop you from speaking your mind. Speak up. You deserve to be heard. And it's no fault of your own. You just haven't been taught this. Your parents probably didn't teach you either. They didn't teach you how to communicate your feelings, most likely, and that's why we are the way we are. And we've probably been brought up in hostile environments, and in order to preserve ourselves, we kind of went into a mode of retraction. It doesn't help. The turtle retracts into the shell, but, you need to come out once in a while in order to, be in this world and to create a different world. If you're constantly in retraction and you're hiding in your shell, no progress comes from that, really. Let's see, I'm sorry. I have to read my notes. My crazy note system here. Okay, so only by freeing yourself from these toxic emotions can you finally reach your potential as a human being. Most people I've encountered don't understand, because they don't even understand themselves most of the time. Since we can see two sides of the coin, it is ultimately up to us to take the lead in having uncomfortable yet effective conversations. Bridge the gap versus burning the bridge. I think we're professional. We are proficient at burning bridges, right? How about you change the program in your mind and bridge the gap instead of burning the bridge? Yeah, and you can't bridge the gap by retracting into your shell. You need to come out and you need to face what's going on and confront people. Confront this aspect of yourself that you've been running from. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm good at it. I'm still on the journey of learning. We're always learning, and I've just made this breakthrough because I'm a manager at my current occupation, and I need to find an effective way to not allow people to affect me on an emotional basis, and also to constructively and effectively communicate my needs to others so that they understand. Because I understand them. I haven't allowed people to understand me for most of my life. And that's where, we can work on bridging the gap. Instead of just throwing your hands up in the air, giving up and saying, well, they don't understand me. They don't know me. Well, because we don't allow them to know us, right? Or understand us. But if we give them the opportunity, we take the lead, we break through these blocks that we've created, this armor we've created, this freaking defense mechanism we've created. If we break through that, break it down, and allow ourselves to be more vulnerable, then we can be more proficient at communicating our needs, and then people can understand what we need and meet us where we're at. Choose direct communication rather than indirect. People-pleasing behavior, yeah, sorry, that was really shitty. It didn't make sense. Sorry, let me start again. Okay, choose direct communication rather than indirect people-pleasing behavior. Choose to express your feelings, needs, wants. You may lose friends or acquaintances, which I did in my last job, and it was a blessing. Because people have gotten used to your people-pleasing tendencies, but it's worth it. It's scary, but what lies on the other side is more valuable than gold. You find yourself. You meet your most authentic self, and you find people who value and respect your thoughts, feelings, and wishes. It's a lifelong process, but learning to express yourself assertively is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself and the world. Anyways, 22 minutes. I knew this was going to run on long. Hey man, if you learned something cool, if you didn't, that's cool too. Thanks for listening to my rambly ramble. And I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm going to check out this art gallery now. Pottery sale. Can't wait. Whatever you're doing, I hope you're enjoying the moment. Blessings to one and all. Amen.